Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stand Up Speakeasy. I am your host, Srethne, and every episode I bring a comic from all over the country and we talk about their comedy journey while we're locked down and during this whole thing going on outside. But so we're raising funds for them and their favorite nonprofits and charities and getting subscribers to their YouTubes or Twitch channels and raising their social media numbers so that way when the comic clubs open back up, all their numbers will be up and they'll be booked at those comedy clubs because that's what they're looking for, I guess. So we'll be all ready for them. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage all the way from Chicago, Jennie Mac. Hey, Jennie, how are you?
Hi, Sareth. I'm good. How
How
are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining me on the show today. It means a lot.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We already have a viewer, so if you'd like to jump into the live chat at any time, you're more than welcome to, but be nice to us.
Hi, viewer.
Awesome, awesome. So you started doing performing stand-up comedy in Bend, Oregon. What was that like?
Yeah. I'll give you probably more answer than you're looking for, but I was really depressed. I was working an office job. And so like coming out of that with medication and like saying no to things that I didn't want to do, I started listening to podcasts, and one of them in particular was the Pete Holmes podcast. And just through listening to it, I realized like, oh, there's a way that people start doing stand up. They go to open mics, and his advice, and I think his guest's advice too, was like, go to an open mic and just watch. And then hopefully you'll see someone who is not very good and you think, I can do better than that at least. So that's what I did. I looked it up and I was like, oh shit, there is an open, can I say bad words on this? Sorry.
I'm not picky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I looked it up and I was like, oh, there is an open mic. So I went to it, and sure enough, there were several people there where I was like, I can do at least that good. So the next week I went back, and I had nervous tummy for 3 days, but I did it, and then I kept going back.
Awesome. That's like my same. I went on the same path. I started off in Los Angeles at a coffee shop at an all arts open mic, and then I moved back home to Colorado and then did more open mics, and then moved back to Florida and was actually put on a show. So I was like, yay, that's great.
Yeah.
that first show is fantastic. But you also moved to Chicago in summer of 2017. And what was the Chicago scene like in 2017 and now, and before the pandemic, of course?
I would say it was a little intimidating, but also like there are so many open mics and so many shows. So like you can, like, I think I got up twice a week in Bend, Oregon. That's the nice part of starting in a small town though, is that you do kind of create your own little community, and it's really, for the most part, really supportive. Sometimes you do run into personalities that you don't want to work with. But for the most part, I think it's like everyone's rooting for everyone, and that's really nice. And then coming to Chicago, like people care about you, not as much, which is great. But I started going probably 3 weeks after I got here because I was still really depressed. But I was like, all right, I moved here for this, so let's do it. And I just, like, no one really paid attention to me at first, and I just thought, I'm going to keep coming back until these people want to talk to me. And luckily they did after a little while. It didn't take that long, but I mean, the first year is incredibly like lonely, and you don't know what you're doing. And but yeah, I've run into just so many like different people here, different perspectives, different backgrounds. It's been really nice. Bend, Oregon is a white bubble. So it was nice to like experience different people from what I'm used to.
Indeed. And I love performing stand-up in a small town. Like Daytona Beach is like my homeroom, and everyone from like Jacksonville, Orlando, and surrounding areas just likes to go to Daytona because it can be weird and dirty and not be judged. And we're just cool like that. Like we just like everyone loves us because we're just the misfits. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Indeed. And like everybody that like performs there's like from different backgrounds. It's such a beautiful. It's like a little mini Chicago, but like just one open mic, I guess. So,
and more sunshine.
More sunshine. Yep.
That's
and
nice.
Hurricanes too.
Ooh.
Yeah, indeed. So, your comedy has been described as deadpan, absurd, and abstract. And how did you get those descriptions for your comedy?
I think a lot of it is bringing my own insecurities and awkwardness into my persona. People commented on that early on, and I was like, I'm not really trying to do it, but if you think it's on purpose, hey, sounds good. I'll keep that in mind. And then also like even before I moved here, I like to do abstract things, but like in particular, I had a very horrible boss, and I'm like, if I tell anyone exactly what he's done, they're gonna be like, "You're making this up." So I didn't know how to make it funny without sounding like I was making up a story about like the worst person you could work for. So I started doing a fun joke about Basement Daddy and how he misuses misuses us, and when the cat's away, the mice will play, you know? And I think it's just a way where it puts enough space between you and the thing, so it kind of protects your audience from all the pain that you had to go through when you go to the abstract route. You don't have to earmuff your audience.
Indeed, I've had horrible bosses in my day too, and they're usually from corporate America. And but like all the ones that didn't pay me well were like great bosses, and so all the ones that did pay me well, they were horrible bosses. So I
This
don't
one
know.
did not pay me well, and he had a vein that would come out on his forehead. And one time he screamed at me and my coworker for putting cardboard in the wrong recycling bin.
Unreal.
There were two recycling bins. Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
But you see how that fact is not very fun on its own. Like it's like okay, but make it funny. So
Indeed, most
yeah.
definitely. And so you make enough sense in your stand-up, and it shows that you were a weird child, and I was a weird child too, and I'm like the black sheep of my family, and that's all right. And I'm glad you decided to stick with it as it says. And so what made you be like the weird one or the black sheep in growing up?
I've always been a really sensitive kid. People would call me weird, and it hurt my feelings at first, and then I just decided, before I knew how to say fuck you, I was like, well, poop on your face. I'm just going to take that as a compliment, even though it's not, but I'm going to make you think that I think it is. um, so over the years, I've learned I'm very codependent and I don't necessarily have great social awareness and skills. I'm trying my hardest. I do feel like I can connect with people on a deep level, but like small talk is difficult for me to connect with people. So it's a little probably off putting for me to share so much so quickly with people. So I have to keep that in mind. Like this is the filter that people are seeing me through, where for me, that's just how I operate. So yeah, intense longing to be liked and accepted, I think was the main driver for me being a fucking weirdo.
Indeed, I still get called weird to this day because of my stand-up, and so it's like, you know what? Hunter S. Thompson was like too weird to live and too rare to die, and I'd much rather be like in Hunter's company than with like people that call me weird. And now he just embraced it. I'm like, you know what? Just call me weird and strange because
I
I'd
think
much rather
so.
be weird and strange than be normal. What is
I would
normal?
love to see your stand up sometime. Um, if you're weird and your own brand, no one can steal your jokes. And if they do, it's just going to look like they're putting on someone else's outfit that was not made for them. So,
Indeed. I
yeah.
can't wait to see you perform stand up too. So if you have, I know you have a Twitch channel on the bottom there scrolling, and so feel free to subscribe out there, everyone, and all that good stuff. And so you performed for Emma Arnold. What was that like? Sharing the stage with Emma Arnold.
She's awesome. I think I only met her once or twice, but she's out of Boise, and she came to town with Jeff Tate, who is also um, doing pretty well for himself. Um, it was she. She's just well, first of all, she's funny. That's step one. Any time that you want to do comedy, just be funny. There's room for you. But also like she's had a lot to say about being mistreated in the industry. And she's taking up her space and saying, maybe don't stick your fingers up someone's skirt in a comedy club. So I appreciate that. Like, guys out there don't believe women when we say we've been harassed or abused, and it happens everywhere. I had to unfriend a guy from my home community because he kept hitting on me in weird ways, and I would tell him that makes me uncomfortable. And I finally realized, oh, I don't have to be Facebook friends with this guy. Like, bye. That's like, I wish you no harm, but you you don't stop saying weird things to me. Um, bye.
Indeed, and it's already comedy's already tough on women, and the and they don't need that like to be harassed and all that stuff, and it's like keep your hands to yourselves and let them perform and make let ever and just enjoy their comedy.
Yeah, and don't tell a young lady from your community that you think of her as a daughter, but one that you'd like to have sex with.
Ew, that's horrible. That's like some Woody Allen stuff. It's like, ooh,
Yeah.
indeed. And you also shared the stage with Jeff Tate when he was with Emma Arnold. And what was Jeff like?
Yeah, I think the main difference when you're just a little small potato and some big potatoes come to town, is that they bring their confidence and they're just like, this is what I do, and these are my jokes, and they kill it, and it's because they do the work, they do the repetition, they've honed their jokes down from a lot of material, they've rewritten, they've written for an hour, for an arc. That's something that I'm kind of missing. Like, I think I have a lot of funny jokes, but I need to tie everything into an arc so that a, a whole a whole hour would be entertaining and not fizzle out at the end. I think that's what the pros have. They have that finesse to know the structure of a good show, and it's I think that's like a hidden part of comedy, is knowing a structure, because we're also creative and we have our own stuff coming in from every angle, but you do have to have structure and knowledge of like the bigger picture zoomed out, as well as like the individual funny jokes and tags and add-ons and interactions and improv and all of that.
Indeed. I struggle too. Like I've been performing stand up for like 7 years, about 5 years consistently. And it's like I've been trying to figure that arc too. And so I thought, well, I have like 20 minutes of solid material. But like now I'm putting together a one person show slash superhero show. So it's like
Hey, cool.
the first two acts are storytelling and the third act is stand up. So it's kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It starts off really slow and nice and easy, and then all of a sudden another face appears and it scares everybody. But it's just like it's just fun.
Hey.
Yeah. So you also performed with Christine Levine, and what was that like?
Oh my god. I'm just, if you don't know who she is, she's been on Portlandia, but she's also like a touring working comedian. Um, and she couldn't have been nicer. I was so nervous. I was so excited to like talk to her, and she was really generous with her time. Talked to me and a couple other local comedians, and she kind of gave me some really good advice about like there is a separation between you and your persona on stage, and you do have to put on your cape like before you go on stage. She kind of just like, I think she was referencing one of my favorite comedians, Maria Bamford. I can't remember what it is, but she's like the last 3 steps before she gets on stage, she does one thing and then the next thing, and then she has her cape on and she's ready to go. So I can't remember if it was her or Susan. What's her name? Susan, I think Jones, Cupcake. She's She's a really funny lady. It was one of those two. Had some really good advice too. Was like, there's joke asking and there's joke telling. And it was a really nice compliment because she said I was a joke teller. But a lot of times, like, comedians will come up there and they're like, "Is this funny?" And then they wait for someone to laugh, and they're like, "Oh, so like a lot of, fortunately, I've been able to sell my jokes from kind of early on. But yeah, just Christine Levine, like, she has jokes about following a woman home and pissing in her sugar bowl because she pissed her off at a supermarket. I don't know if it's real. Does it matter? Not really. She has a joke about kicking over highway memorial sites because they pissed her off. It's wrong, but I love her. So she's really funny. Please follow her.
Indeed. I love how her name rhymes to her first and last name rhyme and stuff. And I love Maria Bamford, and it's so true about putting the cape on and going on stage, because I feel like a superhero sometimes being on stage and just telling jokes, because it takes a lot of courage to get up there and try to make people laugh.
I'm sensing a theme with you and superheroes, and I like it. So
awesome. Between you and me, I am an actual superhero, but it's part of my one-person/superhero show, and so the second act is my superhero days in Los Angeles. So,
hey, do you have an outfit yet?
I do.
A uniform.
Yep, it's I'm a Wu-Tang Clan inspired superhero, so I'm like Wu-Tang from head to toe, and like I sometimes wear it to heavy metal shows, and people get really cheesed, even though it's a heavy metal show. It's pretty rad.
I love it. I just started listening to the last podcast on the left, so I'm getting into like the occult and the weird stuff, and like I'm already a true crime fan, but they have not really as much superhero stuff, but definitely some of the darker stuff, and I appreciate it.
Indeed. Now I have to listen to Pete Holmes in Last House on the Left now, because I love Pete Holmes, because like The Crashing was such a great show, and I wish they kept it going. Like, it's just.
I have advice about that podcast. Go way back. Go to the beginning, because after he started getting success and started getting money to go like talk to gurus and stuff, it just became a lot of like lecturing on how to live your true life and blah, 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 and he just, his interview skills kind of drop off a little bit, and he just interrupts more and tells them how to live. And so I'd say go way back to the beginning.
I'll definitely go out to way in the beginning. I'll take your advice, and then I'll stop after he gets so guru like.
Yeah, and then last podcast on the left, it looks like they started in 2015, and I was like, damn, they are saying some pretty problematic words in this. But I guess they had a server fail, and so they actually started in 2011, and so that kind of explains like the word culture they were in back then. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense now, because people are getting canceled for stuff like that these days. So just with that in mind.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And you spoke of Susan Jones earlier, and what was that like, the opening, being on the same bill as Susan Jones?
I don't think she is as well known as she has been prolific in her career. She's had over a 20-year career. She's worked with big names all over. She's a force. Like, she's a bigger gal. I think she's actually lost a lot of weight in the past couple years. But she just has a force, and she knows how to get laughs. She knows how to control a crowd. She knows how to work with what's going on. She actually brought Tom Carvey with her one time, and then another time she came back with both of the Carvey brothers, and that was interesting as well. But I mean, she's kind of like a road mom. I've also met what's his name? Sean. I forget, but Sean, there's a guy named Sean who came with her as well one time. He's a working comedian out of LA, and she's kind of like a road mom. Like, she keeps her eye on certain people and helps them out. And like, I think that's one of the cool parts of comedy is like, for every asshole or person who's not that great, there's another person out there who's like, here's how you do this. I know, like, even Maria Bamford does this. Like, she shows a lot of people, like, here's what a contract looks like. Here's what you should get paid. Here's what you should ask for. So I just think it's really cool, like that you do have access to other generations. When you're making those kinds of connections to like learn from people who have more experience than you. So
Indeed, I love those types of folks that are mentors that don't mean to be mentors, but they fill those shoes and they teach you those ropes. And for those ones that are jerks, they're okay too. But I tend to stay away from those folks. But I love talking to like comics that are like in Florida comics that have been there longer, and I've been working those clubs and learning from them. And they're all good folks. So you've also made some recent appearances in public parks and the internet with your stand-up. And what are some good and the bad and the ugly as compared to like performing in like at the venue as compared to like parks and the internet?
I think we're all just doing the best we can, right? I think everyone's life has been really hard. My life is a fucking shit show right now. So I'm just I'm trying to sweep all the shit into a pile in the middle so that it's together, and then hopefully I can make my life better. But as far as comedy goes, like doing shows in the park, that's what we can do. Like I know I have friends who are putting together indoor shows right now. And like for instance, one of my roommates, and she's been vaccinated, and she's like, "Do you want to do the show?" And I'm like, "I want to wait until I get vaccinated." And it's like it's something that some people have to worry about still, and other people aren't as worried about. So I get both sides. I get it. She has to work in the service industry, so she has to be interacting with the public. But we're all just doing the best we can, and how better to learn like what skills you have and what you need to work on than doing a show in a park where you have different control over the elements and what's happening, and maybe the sound goes out, or maybe someone's dog is barking, or like it's just throwing new obstacles at you where you can work on skills to get better at what you love to do. But man, there is nothing better than doing a show indoors and hearing laughter bouncing off of your face. So I
Indeed.
miss it.
I miss it too. And I rarely go out and do shows anymore. I just do one a month, and then just as long as it's safe out there. But Florida's crazy. They're just no mask or nothing. We're just and it's indoors. They're just
I would
wild.
expect nothing less from Florida. I would love to visit one day.
Indeed, most definitely. We have more viewers in here, so you're quite popular. So if
Ooh,
if you'd like to jump in the chat, you're more than welcome to. But be nice to us as a friendly reminder. And so you like when you perform stand up comedy, you share your vulnerability, your body parts, and your silly work injuries as part of your comedy blurb here. And how did you discover your voice in stand up?
like I said earlier, a little of it was by accident, just because like I am awkward as a person, and some of my comedy is incredibly awkward. But also, like when you're a weirdo, as you and I are, we've discussed, part of the superpower of comedy or sharing or being vulnerable is letting people see a part of you that other people don't like to share, but in a way where a lot of these things, women connect to me very very clearly because we know what we're talking about, and we let the men in. And I'm not trying to be exclusive here either, but just like the things that different people go through, and like, is my body normal? Yeah or no? Wait, what was the question again?
Oh, how did you discover your voice for stand up when sharing your thoughts about vulnerability, body parts, and silly work injuries?
I love making people uncomfortable in a relatable way. And also it feels really good when you cut yourself. And I used to do that on accident all the time. And I learned some things. I would never do it on purpose, but I mean, you live and you learn, and you cut yourself at work a lot, and you figure out that's a lot cheaper than drugs. So, yeah.
Indeed, I love making people uncomfortable with my jokes, and like my buddies know the punchline is coming and all that stuff, and they know my jokes like from front to back, but they're quiet about it, so that way they look at other like audience members that they've never heard my jokes, and then they look at their reactions and they laugh at their reactions more than they laugh at my jokes now because it's just goofy off the wall stuff. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
it's
love
good.
it.
Most definitely. I'll be sure to send you some of my the best of. I went on tour in Atlanta and that was like probably my best set ever, I think. But I'll send you that link so you're gonna be like, goodness, you opened with that joke. It's gonna be like, hopefully it makes you laugh. So awesome. So
Let's
Jenny
trade some
Man,
links.
absolutely, most definitely. I can't wait to see your stand up and sing it
Yeah, you
live. And
too.
awesome. So for our episode today, we're raising funds for the Human Rights First. And why did you choose those fine folks to raise funds for this evening?
So everything has been hard for everyone for over a year now, right? Um, I also want to say like being imprisoned right now is like ridiculous, because like you have no choice but to be there. So of course, I think that we should be taking care of anyone that we have imprisoned in our borders. I think that's ridiculous, first of all. Um, but like the is there anything more heartbreaking than little kids in cages and separated from their families? I don't think so. So feel free to disagree, but that's what's hitting my heart right now. And I have a little nephew, and the other day I was just thinking, like, I get to. He's gonna be 18 when I'm about 50, so I get to watch him grow up, and I'm so excited for that. And like, I don't have kids of my own, but like, if I did, it would be like even bigger gut punch to know that like our country is involved in so many different nefarious dealings with telling other people how to live, and we're so like, oh, freedom, blah blah blah. Word vomit is how I like to do things. So yeah, that's kind of what's hitting me right now, is that if you're here, you're family, kind of like the Olive Garden. So we should be treating people like their family, even
Absolutely.
if they're not here legally. So
Indeed, with unlimited breadsticks and salad too.
and soup, yeah.
Yep, indeed. And and Denny, I have a nephew too, and I love seeing him growing up, even though he sounds like Jurassic Park in the living room at the moment. But he called me uncle, and even though he's like one, it's the cutest thing, and
Oh
yeah, it warms my heart every time he does that. So,
yeah.
indeed. So Jenny, these are the questions I wanted to ask you to go when because I was hoping to go on tour before this whole thing happened. And so with that being said, Jenny, what inspired you to perform stand-up comedy?
Well, being a weird person, I just always had a lot of ideas and not a ton of follow through. I started like writing notes down of like things that I thought sounded like they belonged in a movie, but I had nowhere to put them. And that was before I found stand up, that it was something I could do myself. So it's a creative thing. I used to have hobbies that I didn't get paid for. I used to referee for roller derby. Got pretty good at skating, not gonna lie. But you can only take so much of a bunch of women yelling at you and the crowd yelling at you and threatening your life, and realizing I'm not getting paid for this. But when I do jokes on stage in my little community, I get paid. Like, that sounds like a better hobby. So I mean, just the instant gratification of getting laughs on stage, like that feels so good. Like, I'm really trying to keep that in mind, to keep going during a time where we don't have that feedback. Like, we get to do that sometimes, and it feels amazing. But just having a creative place to put my thoughts, and hopefully, taking up some space where it wasn't taken up that way before, and showing, mainly women, like they're, like I put off a very queer aunt vibe, I think, maybe. Uh, not what I'm trying to put out there, even when my hair is longer. Like, I had a friend tell me that I seem asexual, and we're not friends anymore. But it's okay if you are asexual. But it's just like showing people like there's more ways to be you or whatever you are than are typically represented in the media and society. Like there's a ton of different ways to be who you are, and all of it for the most part is fine, but not things that you could go to jail for. So
Indeed. Unlike Lenny Bruce. Oh gosh, with his thoughts but I totally agree. It's like, I love bringing my soul up there on stage and like, sharing what's in my mind and what I've been through. And it's just like, it's just like, I don't know, it's just being weird is fun on stage. And just to see what you saw and to share it with the world is just, stand up is just a blessing for all of us.
mm-hmm.
And Jenny, what was it feeling like when you first performed stand up?
Like I said, I had a nervous tummy for 3 days before I did my first open mic. So a lot of nervous pooping happened before then. And then when I was doing it, I was like, panicking. And it's fun to go through that and then also go through like getting up on stage over and over again and realizing like you start to hear the crowd, you start to hear that feedback. Like at first it just seems like, are people laughing? I can't tell. Like I don't know exactly. Like it's like when you're caught in like an animalistic reaction of like fight or flight, and everything slows down and reality becomes gummy, and you're like, I don't know. So like doing that over and over, and just getting into it, and then being able to have fun with it and react to things that are happening. It's a good feeling. I forgot the question again. I'm sorry.
Oh, you answered it. What was it? What was the feeling like when you first performed stand up?
Oh yeah, I felt like I was dying a little bit, but and then a lot of things like I think a lot of people feel this way, especially depressed people, is like maybe you're new to it and you go up and you do okay or you do a good job, and then you come off stage and you feel like a piece of shit. So I want to say that is normal, and just be nice to yourself because you're wonderful. So
Indeed, most definitely. And what are your favorite comedy specials and comedy record albums?
comedy specials. One of the first ones I remember listening to is Steve Martin. My parents had the vinyl. So I don't remember all of it, but just like, being a kid and being able to laugh with your whole family is kind of special, from one comedian. I do enjoy dirty jokes too. I think like comedy was a big part of my upbringing. Like we watched a lot of sitcoms. My family, when I went to college, my sister and I went to the same college, and there were like parents' weekends, and comedians would come. That's the first time I saw Maria Bamford. She was traveling with Rita Rudner. So I think you're sensing a theme with Maria Bamford. She's one of my favorite. I just saw her perform a live internet show last night. And I mean, talk about putting on your cape. Her and Jackie Cation are sitting in their own living rooms, and they have to bring a show to hundreds of people who have paid money to watch them perform. And they're pros. Like it's so hard to adjust and have faith in yourself that you're making people laugh when you can't hear them laughing back at you. But they do it. I think she's in particular has done a lot of really groundbreaking stuff. I know she's not the only one, but she's done the special. I think that was the one where she did a show for just her parents. And then she also did another tour where she started performing in very small venues and increasingly larger venues. I got to see her on that tour in 2016 in Portland, and it was a great show. And also, she didn't sleep the night before and forgot parts of her jokes. And it just made me love her more because I know how funny she is. And she's human, but she was still able to provide a great show. I also want to say Mark Maron. I didn't think I would love him. I started listening to his podcast a long time ago too. Sometimes it's a little too much heaviness. And also he interviews a lot of non-comedian people, which I'm not super excited about, but I've been really impressed with his specials. I got to see him in Spokane, Washington, I think in 2016 or 2017. And he did at least 10 minutes just about Spokane, Washington, which even if you live there, that's a lot for Spokane, Washington. So yeah, those are some of my faves.
Indeed, I love Maria Bamford, and like I remember just watching her a couple times when she was on Jay Leno's Tonight Show, the Tonight Show, and it was just awesome just to seeing her perform on there. And I've heard a lot of great things about the one where she performs in front of her parents, but I don't have like any of those streaming websites, so I don't know where to get any of that. So oh well, I just don't like those streaming websites. There's just too many. I just can't keep up. So
hey, just network with some friends, share some passwords, throw in a few bucks here and there. You're all set.
That's not a bad idea. I should do that for sure. And so Jenny, let's see here. What is so you spoke of sitcoms earlier, and what are your favorite sitcom sketch shows and comedy shows?
I don't know if they're all my favorite, but I mean, we grew up watching Roseanne. I know as of late, maybe not in total public favor, but we watched what was Brett Butler's show? Grace Under Fire. That was a fun one. I watched Family Matters by myself. My family didn't really want to watch that one with me. A lot of cartoons are really funny that I wasn't allowed to watch, like Beavis and Butthead and Ren and Stimpy. Like, my family didn't really like those. But I don't know, Fresh Prince, another good one. Like, there's so many, like, also, even in real life, we know so many funny people, even if they do comedy or not. So I think it's just really interesting that, like, comedy people are really good at comedy, and then, other people are just really funny in real life and in very particular ways, or they just don't translate it to stage. But sketch shows. I don't really watch SNL. I catch a clip here and there on the internet, and there's some funny ones. I do like The Characters. It's on Netflix, and they've chosen a bunch of different comedians, and they each have their own episode where they play different characters in the same episode. Lauren Lapkus is a great one. She's so talented. She's so funny. She's in The Wrong Missy, if you haven't seen that one. That's a great showcase of her abilities and comedy range. She's ridiculous. I wish I wrote a list. I don't. There's so many good ones.
Indeed, in comedy films.
Comedy films. I used to be a really huge fan of Adam Sandler movies. I still am to a point. Like, I did watch Hubie Halloween or whatever that one was, and it was fun. I also watched The Ridiculous Six, and I wish I didn't. But I'm already subscribed to Netflix, so it didn't cost me anything extra. I think that's the cool thing about Adam Sandler, though, is that he's like, I'm gonna make another fucking movie. Watch it or don't. I don't care. I think that's awesome. And it, like, of course he has a lot of the same people in his movies all the time, but he's also creating something, and he's creating jobs and content, and what else can you do? Comedy films, though. What is my favorite? I don't know what my favorite. I did like The Do-Over. That's another Adam Sandler one with David Spade. I think David Spade is really underrated in comedy because a lot of times he's playing the straight man. But him and Chris Farley had some pretty magical chemistry, and I feel like he does a lot of that work without showing the structure of what he's doing. But he even when he is like one of the main characters, he's still doing a lot of support work, which I think is really cool.
Indeed, I love those flicks too. Like Tommy Boy's like my all-time favorite, and Grandma's Boy with like Happy Madison was like, oh, my favorite too. Like my best friend and I, we challenge each other. We were like, we go every time they smoke weed, we smoke weed, and so like my tolerance for level wasn't that high, and so he would give me like sour diesel, I guess it was, or something like that. And I reached to like I didn't know how to inhale or nothing, and so I didn't think it was going in my lungs, and so I was like, oh man, I think I'm tapping out at the second time they smoke weed in this movie, and I was gone, like I was gone. And the altitude in Colorado will do that to you too. Like, yeah, I'm toast. Like,
yeah, you find out that they shot that movie over like 3 months, and you're like, oh, why did I do this to myself?
indeed. Awesome. I mean, if you can go on tour with any local and internationally known comics, which comics would you like to go on tour with?
Any local or internationally? I did. I don't know if you're gonna ask me the same questions that you asked, but I did watch Abe's interview just so I had some names prepared. Because there's so many great comedians all over. Chicago is such a honeypot for funny people. I do want to shout out Rebecca Gibson. She's local. She's very funny. And I don't know if she likes me that much. I know she's very friendly and nice to me. So I hope she does. But I would hit the road with her. She's rad. Over the summer, I did do a road trip with one of my best friends, Chelsea Woodmansee. She's also very funny. She also moved here from Oregon. We don't have to talk all the time. I think that's anyone that you spend a lot of time with, you just have to really quickly agree. Like every time we look at each other, we don't have to talk. And anytime you want to start singing out loud is fine. And also open the window if you got to fart. So, internationally known, that would be a difficult one to figure out. Obviously, I would love to open for Maria Bamford sometime. I don't know. I got to meet her once. I took up way too much of her time. I wasn't even drinking that night. Chelsea and I went to go see her, and I was just in a daze. We saw the show, and then we got to meet her, and I was like, I saw you at OSU, and you came to read a run. And then I bought her comic book, and she signed it, and Chelsea's like, I think we should go now. It's been like 10 minutes. I was just in a daze. Like, I couldn't control myself. Also, when I met Mark Maron, I lied to him. I didn't mean to, but I was like, you're one of the reasons I started doing stand-up. And that was a lie. But like I felt it in my heart, and for that moment it was real. So I don't know. I have so many big names with stars in my eyes looking at them. So I'll work for just about anybody. Hit me up.
Indeed, and it's so true about what you said about friends and not having to talk to them for like a while. Like my best friend and I can go on with like we're not talking on the phone for like a month or two, and then like once we do, we pick right back up where we left off, and it's just perfect. It's that perfect kind of friendship. And so, Jenny, if you can get roasted by 5 comedians, past and present, which comedians would like to get roasted by?
Roasted. I think probably you've already had him on here. Luis Arevalo. He roasted me in person one time. He didn't even mean to, but I was talking. Do you know St. James Jackson?
Not yet, but I did message him if you wanted to be on the show or not.
He's really fucking funny. He's really young, and I feel like I think he's looking ahead to a really good career because he's really funny. He's really friendly. But he didn't realize how old I was, and he was telling Luis that he thought I was pretty young, and Luis was like, I don't know what you're like. kind of wrinkly for a young lady. So probably Luis. I think Scott Myers is another good local one. He's just so funny. Who else do I want to get roasted by? Who do I want to hurt me? I like Henry Zabrowski from Last Podcast on the Left. He's one of the characters on that show for Netflix, the characters. I watched it again recently. He's gross and I love it. But like there's certain people that I just start listening to and they bring me so much joy, and it's not like something I can translate for people why. It's just they do. Who else? Probably Mark Maron. He had a very curt, very him response to me telling him that he was one of the reasons I started doing stand-up. He's like, oh, how's that going for you? So I had like a little more of that. And I think I'm at 4. Who else? These are good questions. You're good at this.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. One more roaster. I feel like I wanna get roasted by one of the ladies of the roasts, like maybe Lisa Lampanelli or Nikki Glazer or Whitney Cummings. Really try to hurt, and if they're roasting me, I get to roast them back. So but also I want to be friends with them. So yeah.
Indeed, and shout out to Luis and Abe. They were some of my favorite guests so far.
Yeah.
You're one of my favorite too, Jenny, and so it's pretty awesome.
Thanks.
And
I was excited that Abe recommended me. I was really flattered. So
indeed,
thank you.
Thank you guys. You guys rock. And this Jenny, what do you see your comedy journey in the next 5 years?
Next 5 years. I need to start submitting to shows. I've gotten booked on a lot of like independent shows, which is nice. But I do this thing where I self-sabotage and I don't put myself out there and I don't submit for things like that's one of the differences of starting in a small scene versus moving to Chicago. You have to be really what's the word for it? You have to go after it when you move to a bigger scene, and you have to put yourself out there. You have to submit. You have to get rejected. You just have to do that. And where I came from, a lot of times people were asking me to do their shows. That doesn't happen everywhere. And of course, in a bigger scene, you don't always get paid for doing shows. So if you're in a big scene, you have to leave the scene to do the comedy. So I want to hit the road. I want to go all over. I might want to live in a van. I don't know if my dog would tolerate it though. But she's small. So she's travel size. So yeah, I just really want to do it. Like, I'm not good at a 9-to-5 job. I hate it. I'll do it, and I need to get one. But I do want to go on the road and just do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Indeed. And you're so right about those shows that don't pay. Like I've been doing those shows for 5-6 years now. It's like not even 2 drink tickets. They're just like, all right, here's your time. Your name's on the flyer. Goodbye. Take care.
That's part of it. And sometimes you can get other shows from that, and other times you just have to hope that someone's going to start following you from watching you at a free show. And I mean, what it is going into it, and I'm not complaining. But where we are, Chicago, it's such a saturation of comedy that it's just a matter of supply and demand. Like, you can go any direction from your house and hit a comedy show in the good times. So what's going to make someone pay for your show if you can go to a free show? So it's just part of it. It's part of navigating that.
Indeed.
But, yeah.
Like when I did 2 shows in Chicago, I made $8, and three of them was from a door on the first show, and one was from selling a poster for $5. So it's
Yeah.
like,
And then like it starts making sense when you see other people coming into your town or you start going into other towns. Like I went and did a show in Wisconsin and I got paid way more than I got paid at any show in Chicago. And it makes sense because they don't have that saturation. So they're excited. They're like, this is a night out when we're going to go do the comedy. Or like the Shots and Giggles show in, what was it, Joliet? That was a really fun one. People are stoked to go out and see some comedy, and it's really nice. So,
indeed, most definitely. And which other forms of comedy would they venture off into, like improv, sketch, comedy writing, acting, directing, etc.?
I am sitting on some footage of some sketch stuff that I've done. I need to edit and make into videos. So I want to do like comedy videos, and I think I could direct that level of thing. I don't know about anything bigger, but um, I like being in charge of stuff sometimes. What was the rest of that? I'm sorry.
Oh, improv, comedy writing, acting, directing.
Yeah, I do want to write. I think I want to write. It'd be awesome to write for a show. I don't know if I would be good at it necessarily, but I think it would be really fun. I think I'm great at punching things up, but I do need a little bit more work on structure and like foundational work. I started doing improv maybe like 6 months after I started doing stand up, and I started stand up in like 2014, I think. And I was so rigid on stage, and I would write my set list down. I wouldn't write the whole jokes out, but I write that down. And then if anything threw me off of that, I would get really like, I don't know what to do. And so I started doing improv to kind of loosen up my buttons, babe. And that helped a lot. And also coming out of major depression, it helps you learn how to talk to people again. Like when people say, "How are you?" You say something nicer than how you actually feel, and then you say, "And how are you?" Or something, you add to it. So that's been a really helpful tool for me to do some of the small talk connecting with people. It just reminds me like this is a rule in improv, but it's also like a good conversation. It helps that happen.
Most deaf. And what's your favorite joke a comic has written?
I wrote this down earlier because I saw you asked Abe. I'm sure I have other ones, but this one is so simple and it hit me in just the right place. Scott Myers, local comedian, he's very funny. White women are the white men of women. Yep, we do that. Yeah, just some of those simple things are the best. Also, Paul Miller has some like you can't copy him. He writes these jokes that they seem so simple, but I think only he can pull. He talks, for like 3 minutes about backpack or knapsack I can't describe it, but he's a local redheaded genius, I think. So
Indeed. Most definitely. And what experience would you like your audience to take with them after your set is over?
If you're not a woman, I want you to understand women a little bit more, or just at least give us a little more grace. And if you are a woman, I want you to know, you might be a little fucked up, but you're normal. And so don't be too hard on yourself, because just give yourself a little more room. Yeah.
Indeed. And Jenny, as you were nominated for my show, because this is the stand-up speakeasy, it's the Prohibition, the Roaring 20s, because we're in 2021. And And so it's like a secret society of stand-up comics. And so with that being said, Jenny, you got to know somebody to know somebody, and I'm glad you were my guest today. Which Chicago comics and Oregon comics would you like to see on the future episode of the Stand-Up Speakeasy?
Ooh, I have a list. Can I give you a list?
Absolutely, fire
Okay.
away, and I'll
It's
get
a
a.
it's a short list, but it's a good one. Rebecca Gibson, I already mentioned her. She's hilarious. I love her. I mentioned St. James Jackson, Scott Myers, Luke Newman is another one where I feel like you can't copy what he's doing. Like he's just I like it when it's unexpected. Like I think there's so many people who are funny, but I feel like he's a weirdo and I like it. Also Chelsea Woodman C, I mentioned her. She's from Oregon. She's hilarious. She's great at putting a show together. She's great. She's hilarious. We did improv together in Oregon, and I miss doing that. And it's hard to get a little group together with the same frequency in your brain. I also love Alex Cuman. I saw her open for Maria Bamford in the Den Theater, or she featured, I think. Samantha Berkman. Yeah. I think
Awesome.
I don't think she's in Chicago right now, but she's a major staple of the Chicago community. So
Awesome. I'll be sure to reach out to all those fine comics because I'm trying my best to put the entire U.S. on the map with this thing, and so far so good. There's like almost 90 guesses so far, and I'm just like, and I'm booked all the way until the 16th of March, and so I'm just like, woohoo! I'm so excited.
I feel so flattered that you made room for me. I appreciate that. I know it wasn't the easiest person to communicate with, but yeah, I appreciate
totally
it.
Anytime, Jenny. Thank you so much for being my guest today, and it means the world to me. And I'm glad we got to work with all the things out that and it's awesome. And so please like Jenny's Facebook page that's scrolling on the bottom. Follow her on Instagram and Twitter. That's on the bottom too. Subscribe to her channel on Twitch. Donate to her Venmo. Donate to the Human Rights First. And also, if since they're all scrolling there, it's also in the description box below, so you can just copy and paste and follow on each and every single one of those. Trying to get all those numbers up and putting money in comics pockets because right now there's no shows in a lot of the parts of the country, and so and raising funds for nonprofits and charities. So, with that being said, Jenny, are there any final words you'd like to give out to the audience at home?
I do want to say thank you again to you. Really appreciate it. I have an Etsy shop. It's called Jennie Mac is Doing It. I sell fanny packs. So if you need a hot fanny, if you got a plan for your festivals for, if we're able to do anything this summer, hit me up. You can message me anywhere and I'll give you my link. But also if there's something you want to do, stop thinking about it and just do it. And if you want to argue with me on that, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm shush. Stop thinking about it and do it.
Absolutely. And Jenny, I'll be sure to put your Etsy shop in the description box below too, so people can buy those fanny packs from you and get you some more money. So and all that good stuff. Do you have anything to model for the fans out there?
Sure.
Awesome.
Watermelon pack. I got a few already made right now. They're pretty cute. You can put your keys in here. You can put little baggies of gummy bears. Things that you might eat. You can put your shades in there. You can't put drugs in there. You put a wallet, a phone, a person's number, wink, a pen, so you can write your number down, or just like a phone charger so that you could put your number in people's phones from a digital aspect. Yeah.
Indeed. To all my buddies in Daytona Beach, buy a fanny pack from Jennie Mac and put your drugs and paraphernalia in there.
Yeah.
They do way too many drugs down there. So.
You know what? You gotta have a place for everything you got. So why not in a fanny pack? It's a purse that your body carries around for you, so you don't forget it.
Most definitely. Awesome. I'll be sure to include your Etsy shop on the bottom in the description box below. And thank you so much for everyone that tuned in and will watching this in the future. And buy some fanny packs and do all that stuff. Follow, like, subscribe, Jenny on all those fine social media sites, and donate to Human Rights First and Jennie Mac's Venmo. And thank you all so much again for joining us on the Stand Up Speakeasy. Until next time, we'll see you on the next one. Be safe and take care of each other, and we'll see you on the next Stand Up Speakeasy. Be well, everyone.